tonight, and we are going straight into a breaking news mode for the next 30 minutes. Donald Trump on Truth Social has once again attacked India. He said, put this on the graphic plate, please. He said, India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchased, selling it to the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, this is interesting. He's going to increase. I mean, he's trying to put in a squeeze out here. I'll try to get some Russians on this, get our economic panelists on this debate. We're going to try and get immediate voices on this debate. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking here only on Republic. Trump says he's going to be increasing tariffs further on India. The point is further on the breaking news grids. He's going to be substantially raising the tariff paid by India. He's used the word substantially. Underline. Trump says he's going to be substantially further raising the tariff to India. Now, so far he has put 25%, plus he's put a Russia oil business penalty of an undefined number, but which was assumed to be 10%. So we were assuming it'd be 25 plus 10%. But obviously, while the Indians are negotiating with him, he's trying to put the squeeze in. There must be some areas where we have not agreed with Trump, and therefore he's threatening further increase. Now, we don't know where that further increase is going to be. We don't know whether it's going to be 35% or 40% or 45% or even a 50% that Brazil has been made to go through. But this is a one-sided declaration of war. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump escalates the tariff war with India, breaking only on Republic. Trump is escalating the tariff war with India. Trump escalates the tariff war with India. Trump says he's going to substantially increase tariffs on India. Trump puts out an aggressive post saying we're going to be further slapping more tariffs on India. And he is linking it to India's friendship and our business with the Russians. We have no response to Russia yet, but it's quite clear that we are caught in the middle of this Russia versus US trade battle, that we've become the linchpin of this battle. So it serves Trump both ways. He targets Russia, and of course he squeezes India at a time when we were ahead of the other countries in terms of negotiating a tariff deal with America. And all of this is happening because there are reports that India is not giving in, and Narendra Modi has in fact emphasized on the need for Swadeshi or homegrown production. Narendra Modi at every point of time is talking about increasing homegrown production, focusing on the domestic market, and using that to deleverage India from the United States of America. So this is massive. Trump has escalated the tariff war. Trump is getting ready to increase tariffs, and it's not specified a number. I'll be very curious to know what, after the second and unprovoked attack in a week, what is likely to follow, ladies and gentlemen. And Trump is saying that we're going to be really increasing the tariff. He's accusing India. Trump accuses India of funding the Russian war machine. Trump is doing this at a time when he is himself sending a person to negotiate with Russia. And we all know that he's sending someone to negotiate with Russia. He's sending, I think, Mr. Witkoff in the next week to negotiate with Russia. So he's opening up a line of conversation with Russia, increasing the threat and pressure on India, opening a line with Russia, and then saying, using his advisors to say that India and China are together raising the pressure, raising part of the machine that is supporting the Russian economy. Now, these are all last-minute gambits by Trump. He's not liking the noises coming from India or rather he's not liking the lack of a response from the Indian government, who we are just going about our business. How do you read this, Shravan? And let's get some more experts into this breaking news story. Shravan.
Well, in fact, two breaking news now coming in. One with regards to increasing the tariff. Remember, earlier it was about 25% and the 10% was largely as part of the BRICS nation. In fact, a response that came in from those who have been part of the negotiating team indicating that the talks are on. India is going to wait and watch. They're not going to respond at this point in time. Having said that, the negotiation was on. Right now, there was also a speculative report that was put out in the United States of America saying that India is no longer buying oil from Russia. That was dismissed. In fact, you've had the Indian Oil Corporation continuing with buying oil, simply stating the fact that this is part of our national interest. Having said that, as far as the negotiation is concerned, they're saying that they're going to wait and watch right now. This perhaps is the last attempt that Trump is basically now putting pressure perhaps on the negotiating team, particularly in areas of agriculture. Remember, where India has put its foot down, saying that there can be no negotiation, keeping in mind our own interests.
Okay, so Shravan, he's not specifying a number. He's just using the word substantial. We're going to be substantially increasing the tariff, but just leaving it there, very open-ended. But he's also got his own line open with the Russians, because he's sending Witkoff, his envoy, to Russia to start a back-channel negotiation.
Well, in fact, this entire thing of negotiation with Russia at this point in time, there has been no response really coming in from Russia. In fact, a threat that was actually issued by the United States of America, particularly President Trump, saying that 2 nuclear submarines would be sent. In fact, you've had President Putin responding, saying that this is a bluff that has been called off, and the fact that this pressure that the West is essentially trying to put, particularly the United States of America, is no longer tenable to begin with. As far as India is concerned, India is saying that there is no clarity in terms of the number, the tariff that they're talking about. 25% was already there. 10% is part of what they had imposed on the BRIC nations. And as far as this additional thing is concerned, there is no numbers really coming in. So whether at all there is any intent behind it, that's not very clear. Having said that, the negotiation still continues.
The negotiation is there, and there is an American team which was supposed to come to India on the 23rd, 24th, 25th, around that time of this month. Is that still on, or the talks are not off, despite all the sledgehammer that he's carrying around, the tariff sledgehammer? The negotiations haven't really fallen through formally, have they? So the American teams are still coming. He's just sort of pushing hard ahead of that last round of negotiations.
Let's be very clear here, Arnab, because we have spoken to those who have been part of the negotiating team, in fact, the ministry concerned. And in fact, they have made it very clear that they are not going to make any response, because there was some talks going on that perhaps India will officially respond to these claims that have been made by the US president. But it turns out during the parliament session, an indication came in that there will be no response. As far as the negotiation team is concerned, the meetings are still on. There have been multiple levels of talks that have been going on. The bone of contention being certain sectors where United States of America wants an entry. India has essentially blocked that, and that happens to be one of the other reasons. There was also another report that came in from the United States of America, which was with regards to F-35. Responded extremely strongly to the Trump threat, has now essentially defended Russian oil trade. In fact, this is the first big statement coming in after the tariffs that have been imposed. The big takeaways, number one, with regards to those nations who have been criticizing India for importing Russian oil, this is what India has to say. The fact that even United States of America is essentially depending on imported items from Russia. Number one, this is what India has to say. India has been targeted by the United States and the European Union for importing oil from Russia after the commencement of the Ukraine conflict. The second is with regards to the fact that this import is with essentially to keep national interest in mind. Third, with regards to the European Union, clearly stating that European Union, from the time that the Russia-Ukraine war began, even the European Union were basically importing. As far as United States of America is concerned, this is what India has to say. United States is concerned, it continues to import from the Russian uranium for its nuclear industry, as well as for its EV industry. And once again, Modi government making it very clear that the targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. Two very strongly worded statements now coming in from India. Ministry of External Affairs putting out the first big statement here, calling this entire move of US President Donald Trump as completely unjustified and also unreasonable. Basing this entire thing is on the fact that the imports that are essentially taking place is to keep in mind national interest. We'll also try and go across to our senior executive editor Abhishek Kapoor, who is also joining us on this broadcast. Abhishek, the first response coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs, a strongly worded statement here. For the first time, you have India calling this entire move by the United States administration as completely unjustified, as completely unreasonable. A quick takeaway that we have right now. Remember, as the negotiation still goes on, as far as the trade talks are concerned, you've had US President Donald Trump imposing a 25% tariff and a 10% additional penalty as far as BRIC nations are concerned. And just earlier today, you've had another statement being made by the US President stating that because India is still importing oil from Russia, there would be a heavy penalty for it. Now, this is for the first time since this entire tariff war had actually begun. India has finally officially responded by calling this move of US as completely unjustified as well as unreasonable. Now, India is also backing this by saying this, that it is completely a hypocrisy on the part of those nations who are trying to criticize India. The reason being, and this is how India has justified its position, one, saying that European Union has essentially been indulging in a bilateral trade of 67 billion euros in goods with Russia. Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor is joining us on this broadcast. Abhishek, all this while, this is the theatrics that we have essentially seen of President Trump has now been called out by India. This is perhaps the most strongly worded statement India has ever made from the time President Trump has been threatening this entire tariffs to be imposed on India.
Well, this is very strong, Shawan, definitely, and this really takes the battle right into the Trump camp, because this really holds a mirror to Donald Trump personally, because the manner in which he has been going after India smacks of some kind of vendetta, which is really uncalled for and unfair. The unfair bit, the uncalled for bit is still not answered in this. But the unfair bit of Donald Trump is clearly answered in this, Shawan, with the kind of numbers that have been given of the two-way trade that's taking place between European Union and Russia and between the United States and Russia. That really smacks of double standards, that smacks of hypocrisy, and that's something like we have seen in the case of terrorism. The manner in which Donald Trump has been pivoting shamelessly towards Pakistan, absolutely discounting its role in fomenting terror generally and the Pahalgam terror attacks specifically. It's like rubbing salt to the wounds of India. The manner in which Donald Trump has been, hobnobbing with the Pakistanis, talking trade with Pakistanis, personal deals with Pakistanis, and this statement really goes for the jugular in that sense of Western hypocrisy. Look at the numbers, some of which you are quoting, and it's such a marriage of convenience that Trump has with Putin. He talks to him 90 minutes, for long 90-minute calls. There is no sanction whatsoever in buying Russian uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry by the United States. There is no double standard seen by Trump in buying palladium for its electric vehicle EV industry. There is no hypocrisy in Donald Trump buying fertilizers from Putin's Russia. But if India is buying oil, because, again, look at it, no tariffs, sanctions on buying gas from Russians. But if it comes to oil, yes, they would, put sanctions on anyone dealing with Russia. So these are double standards of the best, really, and they stand exposed with these three paras released by the Ministry of External Affairs. India holding a mirror to the entire Western world, not just the United States. But then let's be clear: the gloves are off.
Abhishek, just a quick question, because
declaring that henceforth, till now we were keeping silent, but henceforth we would be responding in a measured manner, of course, but then this hypocrisy would not be allowed to go unchallenged.
Well, Abhishek, a quick question before I bring in Ambassador Deepak Vora as well as Rabinder Sachdeva, who's joining us, staying with the breaking news now, coming in. A quick recap of what we know so far. This in fact, is the first big statement coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs. India essentially calls it completely unreasonable, unjustified, especially the criticism that comes in the wake of importing oil from Russia. India has shown the mirror to the West by citing the fact that even after the war broke out in Ukraine, you've had several of European nations importing from Russia. Not just that, even the United States of America has essentially been importing materials which they essentially require for their nuclear facility, as well as what we are given to understand with the EV industry too.
Are we live?
Well, in fact, our editor-in-chief, Arnab Goswami, is also joining us on this broadcast.
Don't fall off, yeah. So, just wanted to come in and say that we at Republic consider this to be a pivotal moment, Shravan, in the India-US relationship. And we have seen this, that for a very long time, the Americans have been constantly trying to provoke. Trump has been trying to needle India. But here we are, we're not needling America, we're giving it back to them. And we are saying to them as clearly, this is the clearest ever statement from the government of India that no amount of pressure from Trump is going to work as far as our economic sovereignty is concerned. This is classical Narendra Modi style, very politely but very firmly telling America to back off. And this is going to have repercussions because we've never seen any other world leader, perhaps with the exception of the Brazilian president, who's given it back as clearly to the Americans. And Trump doesn't like being told off, but this is India saying we also got our cards, we can also use our cards, and our card is that you need to trade with us. I'm pretty sure that this considered view, which is within 90 minutes of a Trump social media post, would not have happened, Shravan, unless there was a decision from the top. This is the Prime Minister's personal direction. This cannot happen at the level of the Minister of External Affairs alone. It's the Prime Minister who has made it clear unequivocally, in the same way that he did when the trouble between Russia and Ukraine started. We will defend our economic interests. It'll be very interesting to see how Trump responds to this. But he's also going to be in a complete fix now. He's probably going to escalate the rhetoric, but he has very little wriggling room on this. He might try more tariffs, and I'm pretty sure out here that India has already planned for a blowback of such a comment. And that is going to be the way things are going to play out. So I think Modi government has assessed that the Americans are welcome to continue the talks, but we are not going to, Russia's oil trade is not on the cards. And there are certain no-go areas which we are not relenting on, obviously. Shravan.
Well, in fact, the theatrics of President Trump seems to have now been called off because called out primarily because, one, as far as the negotiation is concerned, all through what we know here is that while speaking to those who have been privy to this entire negotiation, they've been saying that we have stood our ground, particularly in certain sectors where we believe our national interest lies, for instance, dairy products being one such, agriculture being the other. These are some of the areas where we think that there is no interference whatsoever.
But that's part of the negotiation. But Shravan, the fact is that on Russia oil, Trump expected that he would make this threat and India would back off. Now, there were also reports, I don't know if it was Reuters or Bloomberg, but it had been reported somewhere, perhaps erroneously, that India's oil companies were no longer importing oil from Russia. Now that again is a wrong assessment because imports of oils are not done on a weekly basis. Neither are they from a single party or single source. Depending on where the price works, we decide where to import from. But on that basis, Trump came to a conclusion. This was 2 days back, where he said, I'm happy to hear, but he added a rider. I don't know it's true yet. I'm happy to hear that India is not importing Russian oil. I think it became predicate and important for the government of India to put its foot down and say that, look here, there is no such decision and there is no change of position. And the government would be conscious of it because otherwise the narrative is going to go, Parliament session is on, the narrative is going to go that we have relented. The Modi government has made it clear we are not relenting, we will not relent. And the comment of the Modi government is going to have global ramifications after this. And I'm not talking about oil trade. I'm talking in terms of what we can expect from the Americans from here. They'll know they are dealing with a very tough government.
Arnab, you understand how the government essentially functions very well here. Perhaps with this kind of strongly worded statement coming in, and you're saying that this could not have happened without the Prime Minister's direction. Many, with the Parliament session ongoing, they were egging the Prime Minister to perhaps personally respond. Do you believe that this is by far the most mature response coming in from a mature democracy like us?
Yeah, see, India has made its position on whether it will buy Russian oil. India is not responding to Donald Trump. India is not responding to any subjective remarks. The point we felt it necessary to respond to is on buying Russian oil. We are making it clear we are not going to be a linchpin in a Russia versus America strategic fight, and we will not be used either. By doing so, we've also made it clear that our relationship with Russia is historic. And why not? Because America is sending its special envoy to Russia to have back-channel talks in the next couple of days. If Trump does that, he can't expect and that the others will not continue their own more open relationship. For all you know, once the Ukraine-Russia issue is sorted, all the American companies will just come in to begin the reconstruction effort as far as Ukraine is concerned. So it would be foolish for America to expect, and see the words here, India will continue, I think the words here are very clear, that India will continue to explore its options as a leading economy. So we have also, in that statement, there is a fair amount of messaging out here that if anyone thinks that we are a pushover, that's never going to be the case. So I think very well-phrased statement. I think this is going to be start of a lot of exciting up and down between Washington and Delhi. I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
So you have it right now with India calling it unresolved, it's unjustified at this point in time with the kind of criticism that the West was trying to heap on us. As far as the European Union is concerned, there too India backing it with facts here, saying that right from the time that the war actually broke out, European Union was continuing with their imports. Second, with the United States of America also for its EV industry, nuclear industry.
With Russia.
So it's very clear right now that India has chosen to respond, and it has responded very hard.
Very hard. Well done, actually. Thank you.
So the breaking news now coming in. Just a short while back, US President Donald Trump essentially threatening India, saying that the tariffs will be imposed because we continue to fuel the war machine. For the first time, we have a direct response coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs. Rabinder Sachdeva, as well as Ambassador Deepak Vora, is joining us. Ambassador Deepak Vora, as the Editor-in-Chief Arnab Goswami is also pointing out that this couldn't have happened without the pointed direction given by the Prime Minister. And this is very clear. We are not going to succumb. We are not going to buckle under pressure of the United States of America.
Well, thank you very much. Late in the evening, thank you for waking me up. Like Donald Trump is used to doing this kind of thing. Well, let me put it to you, sir, very briefly, go back to the early 80s, Mrs. Gandhi's assassination. The Americans at that time, I was posted there. And they were then trying to say freedom of speech and the Sikh community, the radicals can do this, that, and the other. And when we told them that we would have to reassess our relationship and we would readjust it. And then they gave in very quickly and said, no, we won't allow this, etc. Because they are, at heart, they are cowards. That same thing happened, sir, in 1998 after our nuclear test. They imposed very severe sanctions on us and the Europeans followed. We survived. Today in 2025, we are much stronger than we were at that point of time. We are more resilient, we have enough reserves, etc. The message we've given, and it's the strongest message I have seen from the Ministry of External Affairs coming so quickly. I've been 52 years in diplomacy and fighting. The message is going very clearly that you don't mess around with me anymore. Yes, as far as Iran is concerned, you told us to stop buying oil from them, but then there were sanctions not just bilaterally, but there were also sanctions on its nuclear program. There was an element of international cooperation, etc. And we decided, all right, we'll reduce it because there was a certain international approval for the kind of actions that we were taking. With this, because we are buying from, where are the UN sanctions against Russia? What is this man talking about, sir? There is none. He's just doing it on a bilateral basis, and his sidekicks in Europe who are alarmed and concerned at the rise of India. Sir, I don't know if you were at the Raisina dialogue in February of 2025 when 125 countries participated. I could sense, I was there, I could see the tension on the faces of the Europeans that so many countries are coming to become
Right.
India's partner in development. This was hurting
Ambassador
them.
Vora, Ambassador
Sorry.
Vora, sorry to interrupt you because we're getting a live analysis now coming in from the president and co-founder of the Indus International Research Foundation, Guru Saule. He's the strategic advisor, the India-US Trade and Investment. Mr. Saule, thank you very much for joining us. India's doubling down here. The strongest message, if I may say so, when it comes to the unreasonable criticism that has come in from the West. Where do you see the trade talks going from here on?
So let me tell you something. First of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, this is a very dynamic situation. I don't think we have seen the bottom line yet. Yeah, there are some cross currents going on between India and US. I also would like to, take the messaging back to something very basic. India is a rising economy. We're already the fourth largest economy in the world, knocking on the threshold of being the third largest economy. So I think India is playing a significant role globally, and America is getting more and more conscious about it. At the same time, tariff war has been looming over us. Like somebody said earlier, Europe has been doing a lot of trade with Russia, 64 billion upwards in 2024, not just energy, but other products as well. So I think there has to be some kind of equitable analysis from the US side. But my take is, given the depth of relationship India and US has been having, I'm seeing this as a temporary aberration. I think end of the day there is going to be some kind of rationalization, because overall, if you look at the positive side, every American company is looking at India as a huge market going forward. I think
Right.
American economy is in a way substantially dependent on India, and energy and Russia factor cannot completely cripple it. So
Right.
I think this is a
You know-
dynamic situation. I think it's a bit too early to jump to conclusions, but hats off to the Indian government for taking a stand. And it might seem like impasse right now,
Right.
but I think there are several diplomatic channels open.
Well,
And we will
it's
continue
impulse
to
on the part of the United States of America, but the most measured response really coming in from India. Robindra Sachdeva, what Guru Saule was also pointing out, I want to ask you with regards to what really happens next, given the fact that India has chosen to respond and has responded very strongly. And that's the message that we are sending across to what appears to be the bullying tactics of the President of United States of America.
Thank you. I have maybe three big picture bullet points. One, what this indicates, as all our esteemed panel is saying, is that India is adopting a certain stance. So firstly, the people of India should get ready to tighten their belts. Whatever be the tariffs, forget the Russian penalty, 25% tariff already which is out there. Trade negotiations would continue, should continue, and India will keep engaging, and India should keep engaging in a calm, polite manner, because Trump is there for the next 4 years, right? So on the one track, we have to continue a meaningful negotiation, discussion, outreach, connectivity, networking, relationships within the US, MAGA, Congress, Trump family, whatever. So that's one thing which has to go on. Secondly, yes, the reality is that with, let's say, 25% tariffs or even 15% tariffs, keep aside Russia, there will be a loss of India's exports to the United States to the tune of anywhere from $10 to $20 billion, which will translate into losses in jobs. But coming to what we could also do, apart from this, I'm arguing we can boost India's economy by 2% GDP. India should mandate a 6-day work week starting August 15 for 1 year. It will result in a 2% GDP increase in the country. I know there are issues like fatigue, stress, and work-life balance.
Robindra Sachdeva,
but this is a moment for national character. We have to
Absolutely.
do it.
Mr. Sachdeva, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but the point that you're making, and I think so that's the big message. It's the national character which essentially is reflected from this strongly worded statement. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this breaking news analysis as India has responded within 90 minutes of what President Trump had to say.